Steelman. What is your position on the sale of liquor in Bovina city limits?
My position is pretty much like Stan's was. I don't think we've made it to 2014 without it, and I think we can go for a long time without it, and I don't see any point in it. My biggest concern is I know what Stan was saying youth-wise. It's easier for underage people, kids, to get liquor if it's available right here. I mean, there's liquor available, and they're going to drink. If the kids want to drink, if adults, if whoever wants to drink, they're gonna find alcohol. But Clovis is readily available, and I just know I just think it's a bad idea. People that are underage have to get somebody to buy their liquor for them, and for the most part, if a family member's not doing it for them, then they have to go to town and find somebody in town or get somebody that wants to travel to town with them, which is maybe an inconvenience for people, and it's just harder for them. If it's just right down here in Bovina, they can just go to their neighbor's house. If they have a friend, maybe a friend that has a brother that graduated or something, and they can just run down there and say, hey, it's Friday night, we want to get some beer, can you go down here to a mile down the road or whatever and buy some alcohol for us, and it's pretty convenient. I mean, it's convenient that way for people to be able to get somebody else to do it for them instead of having to leave town to do it. And there's a lot of times too that I think people probably late at night, they might drink all their beer up, and then it's kind of like, well, we can either go get it, or they got to send somebody to get it, or they can just run down here in town and get it, and it's probably be better if they didn't have any more and they're not going to travel to get it.
Okay, Ms. Riddle.
I am against alcohol being sold in Bovina. I thought at one point that it might be beneficial financially, but after a group got together and we looked at it, and it's not going to add. It sure wouldn't keep your water bill down. Let's put it that way. There wouldn't be enough income for that. But having, well, not just the youth, but having alcohol available, I think, would be more dangerous, would make Bovina more dangerous. I know, like Romas, he said that, if somebody wants it, they're going to get it, so we don't have to have it here in town with us.
Ms. Robledo.
I am against the sales of alcohols in our community because I love this community. I'm not telling people whether you should or should not drink. I am saying I don't want it sold in my community. I don't see any benefits from it. Any revenue that we would get from it would be offset by all the costs, whether it's extra police patrolling, who knows, rehab for our kids because they're getting a hold of it. I've heard the argument of it's going to cut down on DWI. Well, I see an increase because everybody from the small communities that are already drunk are going to say, let's go to Bovina. It's right there. And that's not what I want to be known for. I don't see anything positive coming out of it. I may have missed it. I just have failed to see it. I've looked at Dimmitt, I've looked at Tulia, and the revenues just aren't there. They're not there to say this is worth bringing into our community. It's worth, letting in, and there's the youth, there's families. It doesn't just affect the youth. It affects the family. It affects the whole community. It affects teachers. I've heard teachers say that Monday morning they can tell you which of their students were out drinking. And that's not what we want in our community. I want us to be known for something more. I want us to be known for a community who loves their people. And I just don't feel alcohol would be a sign of that.
Mr. Steelman.
I'm not for it.
Okay, another one of our pre-selected questions that we ask the mayoral candidate. What would you describe as the most positive thing about Bovina? And we'll go straight down the road here.
The most positive thing about Bovina are the people. Do I have to talk 3 minutes about that? This community has always stood together. If there's been a need, it's been met, unless it's a need that nobody knows about. But if you're in Bovina and you need help, it is there. You have to be willing to ask for it sometimes. Sometimes you don't. Somebody else see you hurting and they'll help you. So it's a great place to be for that very main reason.
Mr. Ramos, most positive thing about Bovina?
Oh, I think probably just being small town and in a rural area and you know, there's a lot of small towns around here. They could probably say the same thing. And I'm just I've lived here all my life. I've never had a want to go anywhere else. I think if I went somewhere else, I'd probably want to come back here. And I think it's just mainly because this is home and it's where I grew up, and I know the people here, and like Brenda said, the people here are great. There's just no complaints about that part, anyways. And I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful that I was raised here, and for the people that I know, and I'm just glad to be a citizen of Bovina.
Mr. Steelman, most positive thing about Bovina?
I think it's the people. Most people, I mean, you can disagree on something, but if bottom line, people pull together. If one example, if somebody passes away in anybody's family, everybody's there for them. When times really get hard, people really stick together here. So that's positive.
And Ms. Robledo, most positive thing about Bovina?
I too would have to say the people, and I'd have to say the same thing. You know, when it comes down to it, we may have our differences, but if somebody's in need in our community, I've seen this community pull together in ways that you just see, you think this can't be. I've seen wonderful people do things behind the scenes. I mean, if you really, to an extent, we're just extended family members, because you always know, even when you're not doing everything as you should, there's always somebody there to help you, to guide along. We're friends, we're family, but it's truly the people.
Okay, and now we'll reverse the question. What do you think is the biggest challenge that we're facing in Bovina at the moment? And we'll go back down the road this way.
I think one of our biggest challenges is we're getting caught up. I hear people all the time, and we're getting caught up on a race issue. And sometimes we feel somebody's better qualified because of the color of their skin, and I disagree. I feel the best qualified person is the one who takes the time to listen, to educate themselves, you know, to do what they feel is in the best interest of our community as a whole and not as a race. So it breaks my heart, because that's not what it should be about, but I think that is one of the difficulties that we have to face, and educate people and get over that so that we can just progress forward.
Mr. Steelman, greatest challenge facing Bovina?
I think if you're talking about the city council, I think there's challenges coming up in the future, and that's what we're here for. But just keeping our standard of living the same, taking care of our streets and our sewer and our water. The water's a big deal for us. I think I think we need to look at some irrigation type wells, maybe like for the cemetery, so you don't have to use the high-priced city wells. I think you can cut some costs there that'll help you on the backside. As far as running the city, I'd be looking for every way to run the city most efficiently as we could, and I think that's our biggest challenge is the efficiency, just the way the times are and expenses the way they are.
Mr. Ramos, greatest challenge.
Well, I'd like to say ditto to what both Yolanda and Jeff said. I think they're right on both counts, and I also think y'all may think I'm crazy, but long term, I think Bovina and a lot of communities, small communities, and even large like Amarillo and places around here, I think in the future we're going to have a hard time with liability of the city if we don't figure out where we're going to get water from, because the water in Oglala or wherever we get our water from now is not going to last forever, and it's not going to last very much longer. Unfortunately, I mean, who can predict how long? But I wouldn't think into the next 40 or 50 years. Anyways, it's going to start. I know there's some cities or small communities close by that are already having water problems, and we're going to have to come up with a plan, and it may not be right now, but now's the time to start trying to figure it out, not when it happens, but to figure out where we are going to get water from in the future, because without water, all these towns in this part of the area, you can't live without water, so they're just going to shrivel up and be gone. So it'd be moved to the big city, I guess. I don't know. Or moved to a place like Colorado that's got abundant mountain streams. I don't know. But to me, that's probably the biggest challenge facing Bovina in the long-term future anyways.
And Ms. Riddle, greatest challenge facing Bovina.
Well, I have to agree with everything that these other wonderful speakers have mentioned. I do a lot of worrying about water, but I am going to tell this story right quick, because there was a gentleman that had an oil well drilled out south of Bovina, and it's pretty dry. The water's getting really bad out there too. But anyway, he kept pestering the driller and kept talking to him every morning. What you find? What you find? Well, he never told him really whether he found any oil or not. But he said, Mr. Patton, I'm going to tell you one thing. I found an ocean of water, 6,000 feet down. He said, well, is it fresh? He said, I'm not telling you that. I just told you there's an ocean of water.